What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? The first half of the season is officially wrapped up, so let's discuss the 9 things we're most grateful for.
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? Always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas, a multimedia journalist and graphic designer. So please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. I'm there to see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles, to my photos, and my graphic design. Today's episode is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. On today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, we're going to be talking about the things we're most grateful for from the first half of the season. And one thing I'm thankful for are you guys, my loyal listeners. Thank you for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast for you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms. So please continue to tell your friends. And one of those platforms is YouTube. Please hit subscribe to Locked on Diamondbacks on YouTube. Now let's get into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. If you're wondering why my face is so white, it's because I'm hitting the beach this week. I just came back, got suntan lotion all over my face. So if you're like, watching this on YouTube and you're like, why does Millie look so weird? It's because I just came back from the beach, guys, but I'm here to still deliver you a podcast because I want to talk about the things we're most grateful for from the first half of the Dbacks season. You might be thinking, why are we doing a topic like this? It's because I do think there are 9 things that we should be grateful for as Dbacks fans. If I told you before the season started, the Dbacks were going to be a game out of the wild card, 49-48, just a game above 500 at the All-Star break, you might have said, whoa, that's super disappointing. The D-backs have not reached our expectations. Like, what is going on with that team? But if I then added in the context of Erod would not make a start for you the whole season. Kelly would make a handful of starts before going down for 3 months. Jordan Montgomery, he's going to start the season late, and then when he does come back, he's going to be horrendous. Zach Gallen is going to be in and off the injured list, and he's going to end the first half of the season on a really weak note. Brandon Pfaadt is going to be your best starting pitcher, but even he is going to get a little banged up right before the end of the first half. Hey, you know your reigning Rookie of the Year, your most dynamic player? He's going to be one of the worst players in Major League Baseball, according to WRC+. Hey, you know that big third base upgrade you have? He's not going to start looking like a good player until the final 2 weeks before the All-Star break. Remember Lourdes Gurriel, your All-Star from last year? He's only going to have 1 good month from this season. Remember Geraldo Perdomo, your other All-Star from last year? He's going to miss half the season due to injury. Remember your starting center fielder in the playoffs who came through repeatedly in the biggest moments? He's going to miss 70% of the season due to injury. If I added all that context and then told you the D-backs were only a game out the wild card, a game above 500, and looking like the best team in baseball since June 29th, now all of a sudden you're like, you know what? That actually was a very good first half of the season from the D-backs. Were there highs? Were there lows? Were there a lot of lows in the first half? Yes. But I think the fact that the D-backs end the first half of the season so strong, they are a game above 500. They're right there in the wild card mix. I'm actually on the side of the first half of the season being positive. And so I want to talk about the things that I'm most grateful for from the first half of the D-backs year. And I want to start off because it's All-Star week. So let's talk about Ketel Marte and him reestablishing himself as the best second baseman in the National League. That's number 1 on my list. Again, this isn't actually a power ranking, but that's the first thing I want to discuss. I'm grateful for Ketel Marte once again looking like the best second baseman in baseball. There was a time a couple of years ago, right, 2022, where it's like, what happened to Ketel Marte? He had a very down 2022, coming off a 2021 season where he looked great, but didn't play a lot due to injury. You expected a huge 2022 campaign. He was not very good at all. 2023 was a very good bounce back. And then so far this season, Ketel Marte has been the best second baseman once again in the NL. Leads all second basemen in WRC plus, leads all second basemen in the National League in home runs, leads them all in runs scored, leads them all in RBIs. No matter what stat you look at, he is the best. And you can also make the argument he's the best defensive second baseman as well in the National League. Ketel Marte has come through in late game clutch situations. You look at the hard contact stats for Ketel Marte this year, they're insane. The advanced stats tell you he's crushing it. Hard hit percentage, exit velo. Ketel Marte is getting the barrel to the ball right now. 53% hard hit percentage, leads all second basemen, of course. 93.7 exit velocity, also leads all second basemen. And it's not just among second basemen. If you filter all players for like exit velo in the National League, Ketel Marte is currently 4th in exit velo in the National League. He is crushing the ball this season. He is also 6th in hard hit percentage. So whatever Ketel Marte is doing this season, keep it up. It earned him a starting spot in the All-Star game. He's batting leadoff, of course, because Torey Lovullo, I mean, if you look at the lineup, Torey Lovullo did such a funny thing. You got Ketel Marte leading off. Then you have to go Ohtani, number 2. But then after that, Dodgers and Padres at the bottom of the lineup with Profar and Teoscar Hernandez. Torey's like, okay, I got to put Ohtani, in the top 3. But outside that, no other NL West opponent is going to be getting that many at-bats tonight. And my guy, Ketel Marte, will be leading off. So great job by Torey Lovullo to do that in the All-Star game. The second thing I want to discuss that I was really grateful for from the first half of the season, Christian Walker ripping the heart out of Dodgers fans. Christian Walker is the reason the Dbacks have won the last 2 series in LA, because I don't know why, but Christian Walker plays like Barry Bonds when he's in Dodger Stadium. In 6 games this season against the Dodgers, Christian Walker is 11 for 25. He has 10 runs scored. 7 of his 11 hits are home runs. 11 RBIs, 4 walks. He's got a 440 average, a 1877 OPS. He has murdered the Dodgers this year. Multi-home run games. Like, this guy every single night was going to the ballpark and jacking it against the Dodgers. If it wasn't a home run, it was probably a double. And if it wasn't that, it was probably a walk. Christian Walker has put the team on his back when we've gone into LA this season and has ripped the heart out of Dodgers fans. And it's been beautiful to see. It does not matter who's on the mound. Christian Walker is giving them all busy work. And I'm super grateful for how he's played against the bullies of the NL West. And then the final thing I want to discuss from segment number 1, the Brandon Pfaadt emergence. I've been, we were a little critical of Pfaadt last year in the regular season, and then the way he stepped up in the postseason really gave you a glimpse into the future of the ceiling of what Pfaadt could be in this D-backs rotation. And entering the year, we were super high on Pfaadt, but it was like, okay, he's going to be our number 4, number 5 starter in the rotation. Perfect, low level, low pressure situation for Pfaadt. He can fly under the radar and potentially have a great season, but Jordan Montgomery starting the season late, then being hurt, and then being bad. Erod being hurt the whole year. Kelly being hurt the whole year. Gallen being hurt most of the year. Pfaadt has had to emerge as the best pitcher in the D-backs rotation. And at times, he's been absolutely phenomenal. And I do think he will be getting some Cy Young votes at the end of the year. I don't know where this D-backs team will be without Pfaadt looking like a legit starter in most of these games. He's had a lot of quality starts this season. There are times where maybe he gives up a home run late in the game after looking phenomenal through 5 or 6 innings. But I think Pfaadt, by the second half of the season, I think he's going to go on a run. I think he's going to get even better in the second half as he works through the things that didn't work for him in the first half of the season, get in the lab with Brent Strom. And I would watch out for Pfaadt in the Cy Young race in the second half of the season. I don't think he can win it, but can he finish, in that Corbin Carroll top 5 Cy Young voting by season's end? I do think that could be a big possibility. Now we'll continue this little exercise as I give you another thing I'm grateful for in segment number 2. But one thing I am grateful for is Booking.com, Yeah, because with summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those US cities you always secretly want to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about your rival cities, where hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, and resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city. From hotels that look over stadiums to family friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the US for your summer travel this MLB season. My favorite thing to do, honestly, I love going up to San Diego and catching Dbacks versus Padres at Petco Park. It's a great vibe, nice and airy, and I love my rival city. I don't know what to tell you. And Booking.com has made my stay super affordable. So the right stay can make you a fan of any US city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com, on the site, or in the Booking.com app. And also, if you want to do any daily fantasy sports, then I suggest Prize Picks, because with over 5 million members, it is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast and continue the things we're grateful for. I went with the number 9 because 9 innings, baseball, number 9 seems to make sense, right? So that's why I went with the number 9. Not much deeper than that. How about the next thing I'm grateful for? Jake McCarthy smashing lefties this season, because with Corbin Carroll struggling, with Thomas going down, with Lourdes Gurriel struggling the first couple months, the D-backs really needed an outfielder to step up. And it was like, how are we going to get Jake McCarthy in the lineup? We know we have to play him against right-handed pitching, but if that's the only time we can play him, his bat's not going to be in the lineup that much. And with all the injuries and the poor play that we have from the outfield, we kind of need someone to step up and start producing. And for Jake McCarthy to step up against lefties this season has been so critical. With the other guys struggling, it made Jake McCarthy a guy that you could play every single day if you really needed to. His numbers against righties this season actually aren't that impressive. A 245 average, a 712 OPS, like nothing to write home about. But against lefties this year, Jake McCarthy, a lefty batter himself, has absolutely raked for the D-backs. He's 20 for 53. That's a 377 average, 875 OPS. And he's just been critical and huge in those games against lefties, because now you can play Jake McCarthy and use his speed to the advantage of the D-backs, especially when you're down a Thomas and a Domo. You were like, how are you going to create the chaos and create the havoc on the bases if Jake McCarthy can only play against righties? Guess what? That's not the case anymore. Jake McCarthy has improved his bat, and now he can come through against lefties as well. Jake McCarthy, a guy who was really good when he emerged in the 2022 season. The numbers right now, a little bit less than what he did in 2022, but I think on the whole, what Jake McCarthy has been able to do this year, really, really important to what the D-backs need. And so far, he's played 82 games for the D-backs this season. His career high is 99 games. So Jake McCarthy is on pace to crush his season high in games played and really make an impact for the D-backs this season. And I think he's been so critical with the other outfielders struggling. What Jake McCarthy has been able to give us from an energy perspective, the small ball, he creates so much chaos on the bases. Like, how many times is he just booking it down to first and the guy, maybe fumbles the ball and throws it over the first baseman's head because they're scared of the speed of Jake McCarthy. We've seen him make incredible plays recently defensively as well. Saved the game and saved Paul Sewald's season most recently. Had that throw out at the plate, was it like over a week ago as well? Like Jake McCarthy, I think, has done so many things to improve his game this season, and I'm really, really grateful for him. Another thing I'm really grateful for, how about the emergence of Ryan Thompson and Justin Martinez? Because entering the season, when you looked at the D-backs bullpen, you said Paul Sewald is a lock, Kevin Ginkel is a lock, and we did consider Ryan Thompson probably a lock as well in terms of guys who are going to be good for the D-backs out the pen. But it was only those three guys. And for Ryan Thompson, he was a guy that we acquired right in the middle of the season off the waiver wire. Like, could you really trust a guy who had a 6.11 ERA in 17 innings with the Rays, comes to the D-backs, 13 innings, 1 earned run, 0.69 ERA? Could you really expect him to replicate that? Or was it going to be a little bit like Joe Mansply? You know, he had that all-star season, but everyone kind of knew. It was a little fluky. He probably wasn't as good as his all-star campaign. Did people feel the same way about Ryan Thompson? Maybe, maybe not. But he's proving this season that it was not a fluke what he did last year for the D-backs. Ryan Thompson's actually a legit guy, and he's been so important for the D-backs in the back end of the bullpen, high leverage moments. He's been incredible. 2.04 ERA, 39 innings pitched. And the biggest thing with Ryan Thompson, he may not be a strikeout artist, but he does not walk guys. And he does not give up home runs. Like, that's the biggest thing. He does not put traffic on the bases, and he does not give up the long ball. You do those two things, and you could be a very good pitcher for a long time in Major League Baseball. And Thompson, I think, had just been so important for the D-backs in the back end of the bullpen. And then the other guy, Justin Martinez, super important as well, because the D-backs needed a guy that could throw hard. Ginkel could hit 95, 96, right? Same with Bryce Jarvis. Like, the D-backs have a couple guys in their pen that could touch 95, 96, maybe even 97, but knowing that you're like consistent high heat velocity pitch after pitch, and Justin Martinez is that guy. We got a glimpse of him last year, but it was like, how much do you trust him really, right? He can throw 100. We know he's got insane strikeout numbers, but he also gave up a lot of walks last year. In just 10 innings pitch, he gave up 11 walks. That was a big issue for him last year. He still gives up a decent amount of walks, 17 walks this season, 41 innings pitch at 3.7 walks per 9, but overall his control has gotten a lot better. He may walk guys, but he does not give up a ton of hits. That's why his whip is still 1.122. His ERA 1.32. He's only allowed 6 earned runs in 41 innings pitched all season, and it makes sense because when you possess the repertoire of what a Justin Martinez possesses, like, you can understand why hitters are so off balance, why he gets so many strikeouts, and now he's commanding that fastball. His breaking pitches have a lot of movement on them. Justin Martinez has been nasty for the D-backs this season, and with Paul Sewald as a pending free agent, like, you could definitely see a possibility with Justin Martinez being the closer of the future for the D-backs. And the craziest part is sinker ball, which is his go-to pitch, averages 100 miles per hour. It gets hit a lot, over a 300 average allowed against it. But the issue is the slugging is not there. He might give up a lot of hits, but it's weak contact. Literally all the hits against his sinker, which is his most go-to pitch, all singles. Expected batting average 298. So he's expected to give up a lot of hits on his sinker, but it's all weak contact. And then his slider and his split finger have been absolutely unhittable this year, below a 100 average against both of those pitches. So Martinez and Thompson emerging as guys this season has been super huge for the D-backs, and I've been grateful for that. Along with this other bullpen member I want to discuss, Kevin Ginkel, him turning his season around. I'm grateful for that because, like I said, he was one of those guys that we penciled in to be a pillar in the D-backs bullpen. With Paul Sewald down to start the year, Ginkel had to step up as closer, and he, admittedly, he struggled. Ginkel wasn't the best in that role, but it was mostly the month of May where Ginkel struggled, with Paul Sewald out. We had to step up in that and try to fill the shoes of Sewald. That's where Ginkel struggled, really, in the month of May, where he had an ERA north of 6. But if you look, since May 18th, which is what? a 2-month sample size now, only 2 earned runs since May 18th. Ginkel has turned his season around. He's back to being electric. We're back to having confidence in him. Anytime Ginkel comes in the game, I expect a 1-2-3 inning now, and he's been able to deliver consistently in high leverage moments over the last couple months, and we're back in on the Gink. Now, I want to discuss a couple more things that I'm grateful for from the first half of the season in segment number 3. But if you believe the D-backs are going to come out firing and win some series to start the second half, then why not place a little wager down on FanDuel Sportsbook? Because I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games and the sports aren't sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right. Let's get back into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast. Let's discuss a couple more things that we're grateful for from the first half of the season. Of course, we've discussed this on the podcast this past week, but I'm going to bring it up again. The D-backs finishing the first half of the season as the top dog offensively. Since June 29th, we know the D-backs have been the best offense in the National League. You look at runs, you look at average, you look at WRC plus. Like, this D-backs team has been incredible since June 29th. And now when you look at the D-backs all season, when you look at their stats, very, very impressive for the D-backs when you look at their season long stats now, because all of a sudden the D-backs ended the first half of the season with the most runs scored in the National League. This was the number one offense, not just since June 29th, from the start of the season to the All-Star break. Now, the D-backs finished 3 runs ahead of the Dodgers for the number one offense in the National League, and that is something to build off as you go into the second half of the season. If you have the best offense, that is something that you can build off. And with what we've seen from Eugenio Suarez going to the All-Star break, Gabby since coming back, Geraldo Perdomo recently, I have a lot of confidence in the D-backs offense right now to continue doing what they've been doing in the second half of the season. Another thing I'm grateful for, how about the D-backs DH position this year? The combination of both Randall Grichuk and Jock Peterson, because both of those guys have been incredible and have been all-stars in their own way. Jock Peterson, 871 OPS, providing the pop that we need, 13 home runs. We'd like to see that, 39 ribbies. Randall Grichuk, 279 average, 776 OPS, has delivered in some insanely huge clutch moments for the D-backs this season. And both of those guys have been just so important from an offensive standpoint. I mean, Grichuk has played some outfield, this season, but just from an offensive standpoint, both those guys have been so important to what the D-backs want to do this season. Grichuk has been maybe more of a guy that gets more doubles and just base hits. Maybe doesn't have the power of a Jock Peterson, but high leverage moments this season, 931 OPS, 2 outs, runners in scoring position, 1275 OPS. With just runners in scoring position this season, Grichuk, 308 average, 986 OPS. He murders it in clutch situations for the D-backs this year. And to be honest, when the D-backs signed him, I was in on the move, but I didn't think like he was that big of a needle mover. I was like, okay, if he's going to be your second DH, like that's, an impressive pickup. I was always like, Randall Grichuk, he was never really on my radar too much as a player. And I think I overlooked him a little bit. And I want to apologize to Randall Grichuk for doing that, because he's way better than what I realized. And then Jock Peterson, when you look at the stats for him, high leverage moments, 313 average, 1082 OPS, runners in scoring position, 934 OPS this season. The DH position for the D-backs in the National League, so good. Second most RBIs among the DH position, the total position. for all the teams in the National League. The D-backs DH position, second most RBIs, third in OPS, and third in WRC plus. D-backs DH has been so good offensively, and I want to shout out Jock Peterson and Randall Grichuk, and also Mike Hazen for signing those guys. And then the final thing that I'm grateful for from the first half of the season, Geraldo Perdomo's energy and defense. I've been talking on the podcast when he was coming back from injury, like I like Domo, but I'm not sure if he's really the needle mover. I have a friend who is like, Domo's so important to this team. He's going to make a major impact. Like the season's going to flip on its head when we get Domo back. And I was like, yeah, I know he was an all-star last year. Don't get me wrong. I like Domo. He's a tone setter, but the D-backs issues go deeper than Domo. And at the time, they were definitely deeper than Domo, but I can't deny he's made a huge impact since he's come back. And I would like to take an L on that take because just his energy, the camaraderie he brings when he's in the locker room, when he's in the lineup, there's just a different vibe in the ballpark when Perdomo is playing versus when he's not playing. And then also his defense. He's made so many incredible plays since June 29th over the last couple of weeks. It feels like Perdomo is making 2 highlight plays a night over there at shortstop. You look at his impact with the D-backs this season. They're 4 games above 500 when he plays, 19-15. And when he doesn't, they're 30-33. Domo, I will take the L on saying you weren't going to make a major impact on the D-backs when coming back this season. I was wrong, and you've been so incredible since coming back from injury, and I'm super grateful for what you've been able to do for the D-backs in the first half of the season. Now, that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Should have a crossover with Javier Reyes of Locked On Padres this week, and we might do a podcast either doing predictions, D-backs midseason awards, or things that they need to improve on in the second half of the season. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Doses.